Hello.
Hi.
Won't be a minute. Have you eaten?
Yes. I had a bite.
Good. You know that staff meeting last week, where I made a few brief points about marking adults as though they were children, and the resistance from nearly everyone?
But you carried the meeting.
Yes, until this evening, when a deputation of students demanded to know why we'd stopped grading their essays. They said it wasn't fair, as it meant they didn't know where they stood.
God!
Well, this one knows where she stands, all right. C question mark plus.
She'll want to know more about that question mark.
How did the case go?
We lost. And the lecture?
Oh, it was all right after 10 minutes. I slid from Little Dorrit to Bleak House and got pretty knowing about the law. You look very dapper.
Do I?
Of course, the party. How was it?
Oh, I didn't go.
No, why not?
Wasn't.
Your hair's wet.
Is it? I had a shower.
Shower? Where?
I had a game of squash with Sallust, my pupil. Seemed a better idea somehow than going to a party.
And who won?
He did, quite convincingly, actually.
Darling, do you think you ought to play squash with him? He must be much younger than you and in top-notch condition.
Oh, I gave him a run, you know. Oh.
How's he getting on?
Oh, all right. Gets on my tits now and again. Passes me notes on points that help the judges while away another 15 minutes of my life. Ambitious little sod. Oh, he's all right. Hello.
Hi. Is there an apple?
In the bowl on the fridge.
Go to the flicks.
What?
Cinema. Moving pictures. Movies. You said at breakfast this morning that you were going to the movies.
Oh, yeah.
What did you see?
Oh, that famous Renoir thing.
Oh, La Grande Illusion.
Le Règle du Jeu.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I'd known it was on. I could have just done with that this evening. That marvellous little Jewish count shooting the rabbit. Every time I think of his face, it makes me want to cry.
What? The rabbit?
Did you like it, darling?
Yeah, I did. Quite.
Oh, come on, Jeremy.
Darling, if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. They have to discover their own classic.
Well, what are they?
Darling, what is your idea of a classic?
Classic. I never think about whether it's a classic or not, just whether I liked it.
And you didn't like Règle du Jeu?
I said I quite liked it.
That's quite true, darling. You did say quite liked it.
He didn't like it.
Well, perhaps he tried, though.
Is that what the question mark's for in C question mark plus?
You didn't give him much chance.
A chance with Renoir? He claims to be what they call a film buff, which I thought might mean he could end up directing or editing or even reviewing the bloody things. But he talks as if he already distributes them.
I don't remember getting you yellow knickers.
No. I picked up a fresh pair for the game. I'd forgotten.
Oh, God, that cough. You've got to stop.
I didn't realize there'd be two of you.
Mr. Sallust is my pupil. It's customary for him to sit in. I hope you don't mind. He'll be helping me with your case. Mr. Rose, I have looked at the statement that Mrs. Salisbury gave you. And there are a few things I'd like to clear up. Did you explain to Mrs. Salisbury?
She knows you're to be her counsel.
Good. Mrs. Salisbury, I will have to ask you some fairly brutal questions. But since they are questions that the other side are bound to put to you, we must be quite clear on your responses. All right?
Yes.
Now, your present income comes entirely from the maintenance settled on you by your husband. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
No, I've got a job now.
What job?
Usherette in a cinema.
West End cinema?
Yes.
What does this bring you?
£20 a week.
You didn't mention this to me, Mrs. Salisbury.
Well, I only started the job last week. But I've been looking for work for a long time. We can't live on the maintenance, not these days.
No, of course not. You haven't asked for more from your ex-husband?
No. I never wanted his money anyway. I'd rather do without his help. I thought it would make a difference if I could bring them up without his help.
What hours do you work?
3 afternoons and 3 evenings.
Sounds very nice. Who looks after the children?
I've got them into one of the council nursery schools.
But your eldest child, the boy, Kevin, is old enough to go to school, isn't he?
I've got the choice until next year. They can stay at the nursery until 5:30.
Ah, yes. Very practical. And the evenings, the 3 evenings?
I have a friend who looks after them.
Gives them their tea, puts them to bed.
And stays in with them.
You don't pay your friend?
No, I don't.
A real friend, then? Now, Mrs. Salisbury, what do you estimate your husband's income to be at?
Well, it varies. I know it's got more since he left, but it goes from year to year.
In his affidavit, he puts it between 4,000 and 5,000 a year. 3.5 will be more accurate.
Anyway, I don't see what that's got to do with it. Besides, he's got another child now. That's what's so unfair.
It's part of their case that he can give your children certain advantages, you see.
He can't give them my love.
What about your ex-husband's new wife?
Well, they don't know her. Except as someone who stuffs them with chocolates and takes them to the pictures. Oh, and their coloured TV, of course. They're not advantages, are they?
Only if you like westerns.
Lucille hates them.
But you would agree that they get on reasonably well with her, your children do.
But they don't mind going.
Do they look forward to it?
Yes, but only for the treats. I mean, they wouldn't miss them if they weren't promised by their father.
Mrs. Salisbury, I said some of my questions would be brutal. Well, here is one. Are you ready? Are you living with anyone?
It's my flat. I've got the lease.
Well, then, is anyone living with you?
No.
It's very important, Mrs. Salisbury. The other side claims that there is a man. They have evidence.
No.
The friend who looks after the children, is it a man or a woman?
A man.
Does he ever spend the night in your flat? Sorry. Look, I'm sorry, I can't talk now. I'm in the middle of a conference. I can't say at the moment. Sorry. Goodbye. Sorry. Does he, Mrs. Salisbury?
Well, only sometimes when he's late back.
Does he ever spend those nights in your bed? I'm sorry, Mrs. Salisbury.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to marry?
He's a Catholic. So's his wife. Well, why not? We're both lonely. His wife hates him. She doesn't mind. His daughter's grown up. She's married now. Well, nobody cares. Anyway, he's got someone in his bed, hasn't he? And if he can do it, why can't I?
I'm not judging you, Mrs. Salisbury. It's just that we must know, for your sake, what to expect in court.
Well, what am I to expect? I mean, he can't just turn up after 2 years of doing nothing except send his checks in and take my children away from me because he's got more money than me, and because he can work and I can't, and because he's married again. I mean, he can't do that. That's not justice, is it?
Why do you think he wants them back?
To spite me.
He says he loves them.
Then why did he leave them in the first place? If you love people, you stay for them, don't you? I didn't take them away from him. He took himself away because he said he couldn't stand it anymore. And now he's trying to take them away. Everything's always come so easily to him. But they're not going to. I won't let them. I won't, you know.
Well, Tommy, what do you think?
She's, very unengaging.
Not to her elderly Catholic lover. Nor perhaps to her children. So possibly not to the judge. At least if he's elderly, Catholic and childish. Some of them are.
Well, let's hope she doesn't get onto her ex-husband when she gives evidence. It'll seem as though she's only hanging on to them to spite him.
He's a swine. No, he probably isn't. Oh? Oh, yes. Put her through, please. I'm free now. Yes, I think that'll be all right. Goodbye. Well, how are you then? Been, doing anything interesting?
Oh, a few covers. Those people. Where we met.
Good.
A few ups and downs with Josh. Right?
Josh?
That friend of mine I told you about. His affair with that actor came to a sticky end. I'm sure I told you. Anyway, he's been in one of his depressions, losing hair and fattening. So I've been on call as his favourite mother. It's too ridiculous.
Poor Joe. Poor Josh, come to think of him.
Sorry, about phoning. But you're coming round at lunchtime with such a habit. I'm worried whether you were all right. Right?
No, I'm sorry. I had to be so circumspect. There was somebody with me. Sorry, by the way, I haven't been able to get around. It's been very difficult. With one case and another, I haven't had a moment. How did you get hold of my work number, by the way?
I looked it up.
That was very clever of you.
Matter of fact, I did manage to get a glimpse of you.
Where?
On the tube, actually. I was sitting in the next carriage, and I saw you through the windows. It was weird.
Weird? Really? What was I doing?
Well, do you really want to know? You were smoking, and you had some work on your lap, and you were looking at a girl who was sitting a bit down from you. She was very young, and she was reading an enormous book. And I made one of those calculations only unlived spinsters are supposed to make. You know, she had just about been your daughter.
How long did you watch me for?
Oh, a few stops. Any of your cases? Been interesting?
Only if you're interested in mess and defeat.
Well, one side usually wins. You told me, right?
At the moment, I seem to be representing the other side. Why didn't you join me at one of the stops?
I didn't think you wanted me to. Tell you the truth, I was following you.
Really? How far?
Well, to your front door. And then Jeremy came up on his moped. It was Jeremy, right? He went in.
On a moped through the front door, yes, that was probably my son.
I shouldn't have told you, right? I swore to God I wouldn't.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it matters to me, as I'm trying to cut down on humiliations.
That's because you know you're worth more than a lunchtime doss down with a married man.
That's all it's been, then.
It can't have been much more for you, I shouldn't think. Joe, I'm sorry. It's all my fault, I know that.
Well, I would have thought you'd given me my cards with some style. I mean, be original.
I'm sorry.
For the past 2 weeks, since you've stopped coming, I've done nothing but wait by the phone. I didn't dare go out, even if it meant missing a chance of a commission. I thought you might be ill. I worried for you. Or is it because of following you?
You did know I was married. I told you at once. I have a life. Also, I meant it when I said that you were worth more than I mean, there are lots of males between homos like Josh and husbands like me. It's sad that you should waste yourself.
Well, couldn't you say outright? And you stop fancying me, and I become a nuisance.
I've stopped fancying you, and you've become a nuisance. Is that really any better? Certainly not true. I still fancy you.
Yes! Well, you can go now, if you want.
I'm sorry about the cliches. My manners have been appalling all the way through. If I hadn't gone back, I'd have spent the next 3 months waiting to hear of her suicide or worse.
Would she really go that far?
Well, the point is, one doesn't know. At least I don't. But once I had decided to go back in, it was bound to move in a fairly predictable sequence. Slap on the chops to stop her hysterics. A cup of tea to soothe her. Cuddle to stop her trembling. A poke.
Do you think that's ended it?
I don't know. There's no way of glossing a poke. I tried to make it forlorn and farewell.
Couldn't you have said something?
What? If I'd said anything ambiguous, she'd have ignored the other and real meaning. If anything explicit...
You'd have been picking up the furniture again. I thought you decided to give up that sort of thing anyway.
This sort of thing I never decided to take up.
I mean, casual affairs.
Yes. Although there's nothing casual about this one now. Yes, I had given it up. But there was a party. And I had some fantasy that I might be lucky with some pertly careless little creature. Dreams, dreams. For there was old reality, standing by herself in a corner, and myself gravitating ineluctably towards her as usual. I can't explain it. She's ghastly. Look, old cheese, you did mutter something about it.
But in bed, surely.
Yes, but so ravenous. Making love to someone who's infatuated with you and you can't stand makes you feel you have a soul. Otherwise, why do you feel so rotten? And afterwards, the mandatory post-coital cigarette. She sits with her shoulders hunched. And if I attempt a joke, her laugh. Thanks. And then the endless, squalid complications of going home smelling just right. Not freshly showered, but on the other hand, not, well, oh, God. You've given up smoking.
Apparently, I'm lucky in my metabolism. I scarcely suffered. I had to take over the soccer one afternoon, and I couldn't keep up with the under-14s. And I suppose I believe school teachers ought to set an example. Well, and as a father, come to that.
I set a very good example to Jeremy. He models himself on everything I'm not. My vices have molded an aesthetic. Given up alcohol, too?
Well, yes, really.
Christ, Charlie.
You don't think that you ought to tell him?
Good God, why?
Well, if this girl's as unstable as you say, she might, well, you know, and, well, it would be better if it came from you first.
I'd rather take the risk. She's exhausted enough already from this new lectureship of hers. I'd rather not cause any unnecessary...
But if the girl does, well, then it will be much worse. Besides, she'd understand, surely.
Understand what? That I've been unfaithful to her for the last 10 years? On and off? You don't think she'd settle for one infidelity, do you? We'd be working back through our married life together. The habits of confession and recrimination root very quickly, you know. I hear enough of them at work. I don't want to go through them at home.
When is it due?
Next week sometime.
Alison looks amazingly sprightly.
She scarcely notices these days, except when she's not.
Will it be the last?
Only if it's a boy. She'll go on until she produces one.
How old is Caroline?
15. Something I better warn you about, Pete. We've gone vegetarian, I'm afraid.
Is that all you want?
Yeah?
Have a good day.
That's all right.
Get a lot done? Work. You were going to spend the day on your work, A-levels.
I've just come in.
Well, I know you've just come in, but before you went out.
I did some.
Good.
The telephone kept going.
Oh, who was it?
I don't know, when I answered, they hung up. From a call box.
Probably someone for you, then.
No,
How'd you know?
because they wouldn't have hung up when I answered.
Oh, I don't know. Call boxes these days. The vandals have scarcely left one intact. Tell me.
God, that cough of yours.
Wasn't that the phone?
Yes. 4590570, hello.
Who is it?
I don't know. The pips keep doing that endless pipping.
Probably someone for Jeremy.
Oh, no, I shouldn't think so.
Why not?
He's very considerate.
Even if he were, he'd hardly be phoning us up, as he's already in the house. One of his friends.
No, not at this hour. You know, I wish Jeremy had come this afternoon. Caroline's really very nice.
A little young, surely.
What were you and Charlie talking about upstairs, or were you just hiding?
Oh, about all the things he's given up. Which is really the last 20 years, when you think about it. What were you and Alison talking about?
Her womb. She was admiring it for its fertility. Rather as one admires Dickens for his.
Macrobiotic. Parsnip and onion stew. Russian salad, fruit salad. No nicotine, no alcohol. Oh, Christ.
Well, it's economics, of course. They can't have children and all the other vices. They do look extremely healthy on it, though. Well, they're our best friends. You and Charlie had a grubby public school dorm affair when you were passing through adolescence together, and then you did your national service at the same barracks, and now they're our best friends at 38.
I neither had a dorm affair, nor did my national service with Alison.
I suppose they'll be best friends to the end, won't they? They'll go on and on. Sunday lunches and monthly dinners until something happens to change them. A death, possibly. Why did I say that? Anyway, I suppose we love them, don't we?
I don't know. Old friends are rather like old habits. Once you've got them, it's too late to wonder whether you actually want them.
If Charles can do something about his smoking, can't you?
Hmm?
Did you care that I care? Please make an effort. No, that's not the issue. I've got a hard day tomorrow. I'm giving a lunchtime lecture as well as the evening seminars and a Board of Studies meeting. Don't take offence. All right, do. It's not bloody fair. I must get some sleep if I'm to cope tomorrow. Please turn out your light. Give us your cuddle, then. Pete? Silly bugger. Do you prefer this to sleeping with me?
It's more stimulating.
Well, what is the matter with you?
Nothing.
Well, that's all right then, isn't it then? Do you know, you're being exceptionally childish.
What? What do you mean, childish? Christ.
It's no use you're blaming me. I'm upset by it too, but I can't help it. But you know I'm not off you. And you know I love you. It's just that it's a strain at the moment. I keep revolving the next day's lectures, or what's worse, last week's. I really wonder whether I should have undertaken them. I don't seem to have the stomach for addressing large groups on... I keep wondering whether I'm boring them or stupefying them and what the difference is. Am I in danger, then?
What? What of?
Of your looking elsewhere? I don't think I could bear that.
Don't be silly.
I do worry about it, you know. And the unfairness of it.
It's not at all unfair. I was being childish.
No, I mean the unfairness for me. Or us. Women. How when I'm in my 40s, which is tomorrow almost, you'll still be very attractive.
So will you.
When I'm in my 50s, or when you're in your 60s going by current trends, I'll just be a woman in my 60s as far as you're concerned.
You don't believe that.
I'm talking about my worries, not my beliefs. I can perfectly well imagine myself struggling against myself not to go through your pockets. Or your underwear drawer. Before ending up by doing both, probably. It's very humiliating. You know perfectly well I'm not frigid.
Darling. Look. Let me tell you.
Anyone want a cup of tea?
Darling, shouldn't you be in bed?
I've got a free class tomorrow. I don't have to be in until 10.
Well, what have you been doing?
Nothing, really.
So much for Pascal, then, eh?
What?
Was it Pascal who said that all human evil stems from our not being able to sit alone in our room doing nothing?
Well, if we could all do that, there'd be no human beings left to do it.
But it was only the once. It only happened the once. He doesn't drink heavily as a rule. It was just that, well, he was feeling very low. His daughter's husband had been very rude to him, and he went down to the pub, and he's not a drinking man. I don't know where they got hold of this sort of lie.
Well, the trouble is, it's not exactly a lie. He did hit them, unfortunately.
Only the boy.
And pushed the girl.
But he didn't hurt them.
Probably not, because they made so much noise. They wouldn't have if they had been really frightened.
He's very fond of them, and they know it. He was ashamed afterwards. He cried. It's not fair if this sort of thing counts against us. Will it?
One can never be quite sure what does count. We'll do our best to make the judge understand. They've got a private detective, of course.
Well, shouldn't we get one?
It's too late. They'll be living their lives as if we already have.
All the times to get drunk and clout the kids. Do you think we have a chance?
Of what?
Of winning.
Oh, yes. So has opposing counsel. I shouldn't think anyone else has, though. feel up to anyone else's misery just now. Mr. James, isn't it? Yes. This is my pupil, Mr. Sallust. You haven't come to us through a solicitor, have you, Mr. James?
No.
I should warn you that really you should see a solicitor.
It's a private matter, you see. It's about a friend of mine. Miss Pelly.
Then perhaps, Tommy...
Ah, yes, of course.
Please.
I don't know if she's ever mentioned me to you. Josh.
Yes, I believe she has. Once or twice.
I'm sorry to come in like this. I didn't know what else to do. I'm frightened.
What of?
Her. For her, that is. See, I went round to see her last night. She wasn't normal, even for her. She was talking rather wildly.
What about?
Oh, you. She never stops. But there's a kind of despair, you know, beyond her usual desperation. You see, you are the third man in a row to go wrong on her.
Oh. I see. I was under the impression that you and she...
Oh, no, I'm homosexual. Well, I've slept with her once or twice when she needed comforting. But she makes more out of that to other people. At the moment, I'm no use to her. I would be if I could.
Well, I don't know what I can do.
Well, if you could just bring yourself to talk to her. See, she wouldn't let me in this morning. I could hear her the other side of the door, whimpering. Look, I know how awful this must be for you. I'm sorry to ask. I expect all you wanted was just a quick lay. Well, it's not fair, is it?
Thank you. Surely you should see a doctor.
No. It's only flu, I tell you. You will come round this time. Catch me in this state.
Should you?
Won't hurt me. Anyway, number useful.
Yes.
I couldn't actually make out from our last time whether you were going to come back.
Well, now you know.
Yes. I feel better. You've got a medicinal smile.
That must mean it's hard to swallow.
What?
Can I make you a cup of tea or,
You've been very busy, then?
Yes.
I haven't followed you again.
How about phoning? Have you tried phoning me?
I won't do it again. I just wanted to hear your voice.
Instead, you heard my wife's and my son's.
You want to go, don't you?
No, it's just that I've got to be back in chambers.
You can go now, if you like.
No, I can stay on a bit.
I love you. I won't do anything to make you unhappy, I swear. If I can just see you.
How's Jeremy?
He's in his room.
Yes, but how is he?
I don't know. He's in his room and I'm here.
I thought you might have looked in to say goodnight.
I said it from my usual place. A tentative foot or two on the other side of his door.
Yes, I thought you might have looked in tonight.
Really? Why?
To apologize
For what?
for being so offensive.
Offensive? I thought we were having a high-powered discussion as to the relative merits of Laurel and Hardy.
You were having the discussion.
I allowed him to display the full range of his critical vocabulary. I counted 5 whats, 7 years, and 6 all rights.
Yes, we know you did. You counted them out loud, if you remember. He merely said he quite liked Laurel and Hardy.
No, he didn't. He said that they were all right, and that is all he said.
Well, why should he say more? Especially under an assault like that.
I've heard you talk about the students in your seminars with their all rights and quite liked it.
Jeremy is not a student in my seminar. He's our 16-year-old son, whose behaviour, I might say, was remarkably adult under the circumstances.
And who provides the circumstances? Not every youth these days is lucky enough to have a father who conforms to the propaganda. Crop-headed, authoritarian, grammatical.
His sole offence tonight was to be younger and nicer than you.
Well, that makes 2 offences. Both serious. Anyway, he didn't seem to mind.
If you really think that, then you're being stupid. You've been ghastly all evening. The one evening I have off during the week, and Jeremy's home, and all of us having a proper family dinner together, which I spent the afternoon thinking about and getting ready. And you come home, scarcely able to look at anyone. You drank too much before the meal, and then you ruined the meal with your egoistical... It was unforgivable.
Unforgivable? You should come to court one morning and hear the sort of thing my sort of people don't forgive each other.
And would you like Jeremy and me to be that sort of people?
Well, at least I'd know what I was. A son who scarcely addresses a remark to me, a wife who moralizes and blackmails. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Don't. I love you, you know. You do know that, hmm?
And who else do you love?
Jeremy.
And no one else? No girl or woman that I...
No one else. Nothing else either. Perhaps that's my trouble. Hmm?
You used to love your work.
It's not very lovable at the moment.
That was a race against time. Or death, it felt like. You certainly don't love yourself, do you? Four 590-570, hello. Pips.
take it off the hook.
Four 459-0570. Hello. Which hospital? Yes, we'll pay for the call. Here, you'd better. Some hospital. They've reversed charges.
Hello? I can't hear you. Which hospital? Yes, it is. What? Who? Charlie! Oh, God, Charlie. What? Wonderful. It's Charlie, a son.
Thank God.
I thought this was one of your late nights, when you're not expected home.
Yes, it is.
So you've just looked in, to say you could only look in, right?
Well, to see how you were. I've got a long-standing engagement with my pupil.
Well, what's the point of you coming round, then?
I thought you'd like me to.
Well, not like this. There's no point to it.
What will you do this evening?
Oh, don't worry.
You'll be all right.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. See you next week, then. Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a cold shower? Christ.
Well, I go on sweating for hours if I have a hot one. And as I'm taking my girlfriend to the opera.
Oh, I didn't know you liked opera. Didn't know you had a girlfriend either. I must have assumed you had one.
I won't have her for long if I have to keep taking her to the opera. How do you feel?
Oh.
You used to be pretty good once, used you? It's a very nice touch.
Not really. It's always been cricket for me. Sometimes I still remember a particular shot. I'd never done it before. It was in an under-15 match. It was a late cut. I didn't even know I was going to do it. Or was doing it. Till I'd completed it. Like this. And the ball was at the boundary. The one moment in my life I felt a touch of sublimity. I try and recall it occasionally before I go to sleep.
You know, it just struck me the other day that I was 28 and already too old to be any of the things I still dream I might be. Professional tennis player.
What?
Or...
Actually, Tommy? Tommy?
Can you do that? What? Your mouth, kiss him. That business? I don't get it.
You okay? I could feel his breath coming out of his mouth.
That's probably your own breath coming back at you, I'm afraid.
He just keeled over.
They'll be here in a minute. You look as though you could. I'm sorry.
He was my pupil, you see.
By being deserving to his violence.
One of our boys did that. He was 15. Perfectly fit. Suddenly collapsed on the football pitch. In the midst, so to speak.
Thanks. What is it? Midway upon this way of life, I'm lost upon...
Having had 20 years of entre de guerre. No, that's something else. Well, the worst is to come, I suppose. The death of friends, all the death in waiting, including our own. It's the death of children that haunts me. Sometimes in the night.
Don't.
What was he like?
Just a pupil. Callower than some. In fact, I took less notice of him than most of my recent ones until the game. We talked for the first time. The way people do, you know, after squash. I patronized him a bit. Ignored him quite often. Tried to conceal my irritation when he passed me damn stupid notes in the middle of a plea. He was all right, you know. I don't know.
Everything else all right? Hmm? Well, that girl.
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm keeping it at bay, just at the moment.
What?
Whatever conclusion there is to be. I thought you'd given it up.
I started again in the hospital waiting room.
Still, that's something to celebrate.
Silence. Court stand. Salisbury and Salisbury. May it please your lordship, I appear in this matter for the applicant.
and my learned friend, Mr. Linnet, appears for the respondent. My lord, the facts of the case are these. The respondent was rewarded a decree nisi and the custody of the two children, Lucille and Kevin. At that time that the order was made, the learned judge quite properly took the view that it would be in the children's best interests to remain with their mother. My lord, since then there has been, if I may put it this way,